That is something only a knitter would say, right? Oh, sure. Sorry, I'm from the South. It happens. It just happens. This is the Knit Weekend podcast. I'm Haley, and believe it or not, I made it back in only 1 week. It's only been 1 week since my last filming, and you'll probably get this video 2 weeks out because I'm going to give myself a little bit of grace on editing time over the week. But I'm going to get back on this old podcasting horse and make sure that I'm getting some videos out. Also, lots of thoughts to share on all things fiber and knitting that have just been kind of reeling around in my mind. Let me start with the fact that it is November, the first weekend in November. It's the first Sunday in November, and it is almost 80 degrees here in Nashville. 80 degrees in November. I don't know what the conversion on that is, but it's really hot, way too hot. We had a few days down in the 60s, maybe about a week. And everybody was complaining about the weather and how they're looking forward to the warm up. And I was sitting there thinking, people, I work all year to prepare for sweater weather. It's finally here, and now you are wishing it back in the 80s in November. So my heaviest winter knits are still on hold. I am very much looking forward to wearing those. But here we are, it's November, it's 80 and sunny, and I don't like it. I'm sure other knitters out there might feel the same way, right? You do. You feel the same way? Anyway, so let's see. My last episode was a Rhinebeck kind of recap episode. And I have to tell you, since coming back from Rhinebeck, I have been low-key obsessed with the idea of learning how to spin. It's just floating around in my mind constantly. I have so many goals before I can do that, and questions, lots of goals, lots of questions. And yeah, so one thing that I have that I was hoping you guys might help me with is that I would love to get your recommendations for some good resources and tutorials on just the basics of spinning and what to expect as a beginner. And two, also any podcasts with great spinning content, throw those my way. Let's stoke the fire a little bit and see where it lands. I do have some goals though before I can start spinning. Because we got to keep this hobby under control, and we need space for this hobby. So a few goals that I have. One, I've got to get the front office of our house cleaned out. It has not really been a super usable space these past several years, to be quite honest. And so we have been working all day to clear out that space. To that end, I brought some show and tell items. If you will humor me, I think this is pretty funny. We've just been kind of laughing all morning on this, which has put me in a really good mood. So part of what is taking up space in the front office is a bunch of boxes that I have brought from my mom's house to go through. And let me back up and just say thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts on the loss of a parent and your condolences with me over the past week since I posted my last video. I truly appreciate it. And yes, I am taking time to care for myself, and I am giving myself the space that I need to grieve. I'm kind of trying to approach grief as like live with it and not in it. So there are moments, but I'm doing pretty well. Anyway, so the show and tell that I have brought for you, these are all things that I found at my mom's house, and it's fiber related because I have to get rid of it or go through it in order to make room for a hobby space in the front office. So first is that 4-year-old Haley. This is me dancing on a showboat in Florida. And next we've got the kindergarten graduation photo. Yes, there she is. What a good student. Found my kindergarten report cards as well. Decided that I probably didn't need to keep those though. I didn't think that any future job references would ask for it. And this one my husband affectionately called the awkward middle school years. And I'm also looking at this, I realized my mom must not have had many people to give these out to. Look, it's a whole sheet. Ah, it's a whole sheet of me. So funny. But I have found some really sweet items as I've been going through all the boxes as well. And kind of part of it has let me know that maybe I came upon my fiber and knitting journey honestly, because I found a whole bunch of items that my grandmother crocheted for me. And also blankets too. I'll have to maybe bring those out and show you those as well. But I just wanted to show you the most adorable, oh my gosh, look at this cute little sweater. Okay, if you are a children's knitwear or crochet designer, this stitch pattern is adorable. So I could totally see this with some garter ridges, eyelet stitches, little like kind of cap balloon sleeves. It's so cute. I'm obsessed. I love it. I wish I had a little girl in my life to give this to, but I don't. So I'm just gonna admire it and appreciate my grandmother's handiwork on that. Yeah, so really fun. So anyway, so that's one goal. So I've got to get the front room cleaned out. Maybe that will even become like a podcasting space so that I don't have to hastily clean up all the mess that usually exists in my house. And then I need to deal with the closet, the spare closet. So that right now is chock full of vintage clothes and artwork that isn't hung. The clothes obviously aren't being worn, and I need to make decisions on that because I want a yarn closet. I want a closet without hanging racks, with just shelves to be able to put my folded knits and my yarn on, and yeah, just be able to open that closet door and admire those woolly goodness. And then the third goal that I have there is to, oh, if I'm looking aside, it's because I made myself notes this time. I felt so scattered last time. I decided to be a better podcaster, make myself some notes, but maybe I'll just hold them in front of me rather than continuing to turn to the side, because that's not a very good podcast thing to do. Anyway, and then my third goal is that I have to knit up sweater quantities that I have in stash. And I have right now 6 sweater quantities in my stash. I'm gonna say one of those does not count because my husband picked it out, or well, my husband asked for it, I picked it out. So I'm gonna say 5 sweater quantities in my stash that have to be knit before I can dive into the hand spinning obsession. So anyway, let me know if you have any good hand spun podcasts or recommendations in the comments below. I would so appreciate it. All right, on to what I am wearing, which I wore this last night to a Japanese hot pot restaurant for my cousin's birthday, and I'm pretty sure I still smell like hot pot. So after this episode, if I can stand the smell of it for the next however many minutes that we're chatting, I am going to take this and put it outside in the fresh air so that hopefully it can air out so that it doesn't smell like hot pot for the rest of its life. But I'm wearing my Gloam cardigan. This is by Caitlin Hunter. You've seen this in the 2 previous episodes just briefly, but I realized I didn't really tell you anything about the experience of knitting it, so I thought I would wear it today to kind of take that opportunity. Let's see, let me stand up so you can see. A pattern by Caitlin Hunter, not one of her super well-known or frequently knitted patterns. I chose it, the yarn came first and then the pattern. This is knit in Jill Draper Makes Stuff Kingston, which is a DK weight, 100% Targhee wool. I think it's woolen spun probably by Hillesvag Designs. So it has a very earthy feel and creates a pretty thick fabric without a whole lot of drape. It's not a super drapey yarn. So I chose this pattern specifically for the yarn. My vision for this was a cropped cardigan that I could wear kind of in transitional temperatures. Not 80-degree temperatures, maybe like 70-degree temperatures or 65. But anyway, so I chose this cardigan based on that. And the construction, it is a top-down knit. It is actually seamed. The body is seamed. The sleeves are knit in the round. Is this camera too high? Should we lower the camera a little bit? Hold on, let me see. Yeah, okay, I think that's better. Sorry about that. So it's a top-down cardigan. It is seamed, and the sleeves are knit in the round. And I have to say that I actually discovered that I don't mind seaming. I've always dreaded seaming. There are so many patterns out there that I've gone, nope, I'm not touching that because I do not want to seam. I'm thinking of maybe Julie Hoover, some of her patterns that are gorgeous but often seamed, and I have to say I don't mind it. I'm actually really proud of my seams. Do you want to see my seams? I'll show you my seams. So that is something only a knitter would say, right? I'll show you my seams. Okay, so here is the side seam. That's pretty good, right? And then the shoulder seam is here. This one's a little bulkier here, a little more visible, but kind of also blends in with the purl ridge, so not terrible. But I'm particularly proud of the side seams. Anyway, so I think I've conquered my fear of seaming, and yeah, I think don't be super afraid. Now, I will say that seaming with a woolen spun yarn was maybe not the easiest. I did have a place when I was seaming that I pulled a little too tight and the yarn broke, so I did have to kind of figure out how to navigate that situation. Ultimately, I decided that it wouldn't probably budge. I had a long enough tail on there that while I couldn't weave it in, I felt confident that it wasn't going to be a big deal. So I just, when I went in with the next piece of yarn, left a little bit of a longer tail on that end that then I kind of wrapped around and through the frayed tail from the break. So I think that worked out really well. What else about this cardigan? Oh, the other reason I think I don't mind seaming cardigans so much is that it makes them a little more portable. Because I was able to go to work with just the back piece or just the front panel. And that was really handy, actually. Rather than trying to stuff an entire cardigan in my bag, I just kind of carried the pieces. So if you're somebody who has a lot of commuting or you do a lot of traveling, then a seamed cardigan may not be a bad thing. Let's see, what else about this? I would say that if I didn't, let me slow down, gather my thoughts. I did knit this a little more cropped than the pattern suggested. I did that intentionally. For me, I'm petite, so if I'm gonna go boxy, I'm generally gonna go a bit more cropped. I just prefer that silhouette. I think I cropped it a little bit too much. Here's why. I sort of anticipated it sitting maybe about this length, but where it actually sits is more like here. So it still covers the button band on my jeans, but I think I would have liked it maybe a couple centimeters longer in the front. The back is just fine, but what happens, which I didn't anticipate or didn't consider, is that when I put the neckband and the button band on, which is a pretty wide band, then now instead of sitting here on my neck, it sits a bit further back. So that makes the front a little shorter than I necessarily had in mind. I'm not going to fix it because that would be a major sweater surgery that would involve me having to take off the front button bands and knit both sides longer, re-seam them, and then put the button band / neckband, because this is not really a button band, the ribbing here back on the cardigan. So I've blocked it as aggressively as I can in terms of length, and I'm just going to accept it for what it is. But I will say I actually get a lot of compliments on it. Isn't that weird? Do you guys have that happen to you where you end up getting a lot of compliments on something that like isn't necessarily how you envisioned, but people still really like it? I think probably the yarn choice and the unusual silhouette of the cardigan makes it a crowd pleaser. But anyway, so that's some more details on the Gloam cardigan. Sorry I have put it in a third episode. I'm sure you're exhausted of it by now, but I wanted to just take an opportunity to actually tell you about the experience of knitting the cardigan, because that's why we're here, right? Anyway, so moving on, I do have one more finished object to share with you, and I forgot to grab it. So hang on, I will be right back. Okay, my next finished object to share with you is my Moby Slipover. I meant to put this on a hanger, but obviously forgot. I finished this just on Friday evening, maybe even yesterday morning. I think I was still doing the tubular bind off on the hem yesterday morning. So I will pop on a little photo here of me wearing it. And I did break it out yesterday, give it its maiden voyage. We had a nice little hike yesterday afternoon, and I decided to throw this on. I have to tell you, this is such a warm, warm knit. That's it. I was definitely sweating by the end and kind of had to drape it over my bag because it was just too warm. Granted, it was 70 degrees, but the wind was blowing and we were in the shade, so I thought it would work, and it was just way too warm. But that's okay. Cooler days are coming, right? So I knit this in Hillesvag Tinde. Let's see. It's here. And I think this is the mulberry shade. Hillesvag Tinde is a DK weight yarn. And I think that if it's not woolen spun, it's only very loosely plied. The ply on it is like not very aggressive. So I think that's probably one reason why it was so warm, with the air that's captured in the like kind of low twist. And then also the fact that I've got these cables and this mock cable here, I think made it for a really warm, cozy vest to wear. Let's see, what should I tell you about this? It's top-down construction. You start flat, then you join in the round. Oh, it's by Petite Knit. I figure most of you know that by now. I don't show you guys a lot of Petite Knit patterns because I just feel like you know them, you know they're out there. Everybody's knitting them. But what I will say about this one is it's a super approachable cable knit. So if you are wanting to get into cable knits and you just haven't kind of worked up the courage yet, definitely check out the Moby Slipover. There's technically only one cable, well, I guess two, one on each side, that you knit. This is a faux cable stitch pattern. So no cabling involved here, just here and here. And I will tell you, did not super love knitting this section here in the front, this lattice work. Not my favorite. But if you've not done a lot of cable knitting, then I think this would be a great pattern for you. The charts, it is charted. It is charted, but the charts were super easy to read. The cable is not overly complicated. And this is one that you actually can read your stitches pretty easily on this pattern. So I didn't have to reference the charts that much once I got kind of past the divide for the sleeves and was into the body. I really didn't have to read the charts a whole lot. So that was great. I think for me, if you hear some whining in the background, that would be my co-host, Sweet Georgia Brown. She has been put on unpaid administrative leave because in the middle of last episode, she bit me, resulting in a urgent care clinic and a tetanus shot. So she is on the other side of the door screaming to be let in. And yeah, we're just gonna have to, we're waiting for the HR department here at the Knit Weekend podcast to investigate this incident to decide if further action is needed. No further action is going to be needed other than just closing the door. We love her dearly. Please don't at me on that. She's not going anywhere. Anyway, I think the trickiest part of this pattern for me was actually picking up the neck and the sleeves. She has written into this pattern a different frequency of pickup depending on where you are in the neckline, whether you are in a straight section, increasing section, your cast on stitches, or on the back. So, and I don't remember off the top of my head what it is. Also, it's a paid pattern, so I'm not going to tell you that. But I would say what I did to make that easier for me is I actually put stitch markers at each different section before I started picking up the stitches. So I marked where my front neckline started, then where my increases started, then where my cast on stitches started, and so on and so forth. And then I took the total number of stitches that she said that I would need for the neckline. I subtracted out my cast on stitches for the back and for the front, because each of those were a 1-to-1 pickup. And that's pretty typical in most knitting patterns. So I took out my stitch count here and my stitch count here. That left me with what I would need to pick up from here to here and here to here. So I divided that number of stitches by 2, and then that told me what I need to pick up here to here. And then I kind of counted back into my straight rows, marked how many I would need to pick up there, and counted into my increased rows and marked how many I would need to pick up there. Does that make sense? It's kind of wild knitting math, but that's because I hate having to pick up more than once on my stitches. So I do the math up front and then decide how many stitches in each section I need to be getting. That way, if I do have to pull them out, I'm only just pulling out this one section. And then of course, it has to mirror whatever I pick up here needs to be the same that I pick up over here. So I'm not sure if that makes any sense whatsoever. Sorry, it's getting really warm. I can tell because I'm blushing, so the Gloam is gonna have to come off for now. Okay. So anyway, that's how I manage the pickup of the stitches with the different frequency. Am I overthinking it? Yes, probably. Does it work for me? It does. So that's just something to consider if you are like me and want to get it right on the first time as far as the number of stitches you need to pick up. Also, I'll be honest, if I'm off by like 2 stitches, I'm not worried about it. It's not a big deal to have 2 extra stitches on a pickup like that. Let's see, the only modifications that I made for this, I actually decided to knit it quite a bit shorter than what she suggested in the pattern. Before deciding on my length, I actually did a block on it. So when I got to the bottom of the pattern here, I stopped and I did a full-on block before I added the rib hem on the bottom. With it being a cable pattern and I had a really specific length in mind to go with some of my cropped or my high-waisted work pants. With it being a cable pattern, I decided that it would be a good idea for me to see how that cable is going to expand in order to get the length that I wanted to get. And I have to say, I think it was absolutely perfect. I think the length, I think I nailed it. I'm pretty pleased with the fit. And then what I did was I went back in, added the hem, and rather than doing another full block, I just gave the hem a good steam block. The only thing that I had a little kind of concerned about as far as the fit on this one are the width of the shoulders. I found that they were kind of flaring out, and I wish I had taken a before and after photo to show you, but I found that they were kind of flaring out at the edge of my shoulder, and I was not too keen on that. It made me look like an awkward, like, I don't know, 80s shoulder pad in my vest. So learned this trick. This was one that Haley Smedley of Ozetta shared with me when I was working on her Highland Slipover. While I was steam blocking the hem, I rolled up a towel and I put it through the shoulders as if it were my shoulders, and then I steam blocked the edge of the shoulder along the towel. And that kind of just allowed it to relax in and not be so flared. And now I am much more pleased with it. Still think it's maybe a little wide, but not enough to where I'm gonna go in and be tearing out my sewn tubular bind off and redoing it. So I'm gonna leave that alone for now, and I'm really looking forward to wearing this. Pretty pleased with it. The other special thing about this is the Hillesvag Tinde. We actually bought this yarn at the mill in Norway. And I just love that memory associated with it. First of all, to get there is not an easy process. We did have to rent a car, and we spent all day driving through the fjords, and I got to see some sheep and lots of pretty waterfalls and all that. So it's just really special to have that memory associated with this project. Also, my husband has a connection to it too. He keeps on saying, oh, is that the Norway yarn? But I think there's something to be said for the yarn that we collect along the ways, and also our projects they all have these great memories associated with it. And how sweet is that like we get to look at a project and say, I remember where I bought that yarn or who I was with when I was knitting that. I think it's really cool. And it's incentive for me, frankly, to be more intentional about my yarn purchases, and picking them up in places and in moments that will have wonderful memories associated, as opposed to just going on an online buying binge. So I think that's something that I would really like to pay more attention to going forward. It's just that sort of like intentionality of purchasing. That is not to say I'm gonna not be doing online purchasing binges, but anyway, just really sweet. Oh, to that end, I mentioned that it was the perfect fit, and I don't want you to like have any illusion that I somehow managed to be magical and nail the perfect fit without much effort. That is not the case for me. I am a multi-swatcher. 3 swatches, 3 different needle sizes. Sometimes I swear I drive myself crazy trying to get there, but on this one, I got there, and I'm pretty darn pleased with that. So anyway, just didn't want you to think there was some, special formula that you were missing out on, other than the fact that I'm just an avid swatcher. So that is all for finished objects. I had hoped to come to you, well, actually that's not it for finished objects, but the other finished objects are going to be at the end of the video. I am going to have a gift knitting section, but I'm going to kind of bury that further in the video. Anyway, I was hoping to come to you today with exciting new cast-ons and whips, and it didn't happen. I don't have them. I got super stuck. You want to hear about it? I got super stuck. So last episode, I kind of teased this swatch that I'm really enjoying. Let's see if I can hold it there so it will not focus on my face. And this was knit up in also Hillesvag Tinde, and then Isager EcoSoft, which is one of my favorite yarns that I've knit with. It is just glorious. It's this one. Can you see? It's so luxurious. So anyway, so I knit this up, and I'm like, oh man, I am like straight on with this swatch. This was meant to be the Alder Sweat, Alder Sweater. Sorry, I'm from the South. It happens. It just happens. This is meant to be the Alder Sweater by Rebecca Clow, the Craybea. And I've kind of had this vision of this multi-textured stitch pattern in my brain for months for a sweater. I knit a scarf in a very similar kind of stitch pattern with a blown yarn and a plied yarn together. And I have just really wanted to recreate that in a sweater or in a vest. I thought it was super cool. Thought I nailed it. Before I cast on, I did what I always do, because usually my swatches are a couple weeks before I actually jump into the cast on. I did what I always do, and I recounted my stitches and my rows just to make sure that I was all good. My stitches were great. They were perfect. My rows were off so majorly, like major off on my rows, that I just didn't see being able to make that work. So I swatched this on a 4mm needle, and I was really disappointed because I really just wanted to knit this sweater. So I said, you know what? To heck with it. Everybody else does this. I can do this too. I'm going to cast on with abandon. I'm not going to swatch it. I'm going to cast on 4.5mm needles, and I am just going to see where it takes me. And I got maybe, that looks like maybe 1 repeat in, and I just didn't like the stitch and how it was forming up. Let's see, we are not getting any focus. Okay, anyway, you're just gonna have to trust me on this. Maybe if I hold it out here, I can zoom in on it. I did not like how the stitch was forming up here as compared to my swatch. It just looked like really different to me. And I sat there and I knitted a couple more rows, and I really hoped it was gonna change. And I knitted a couple more rows and I hoped it was gonna change. And I think what I have decided is that I need to step away. It's not to say that I can't knit this pattern later, but I just think I have to admit to myself now at this point that this is not a doable yarn combination for this pattern. I think the blown yarn really needs to be on 4.5mm needles, and I think the Hillesvag really needs to be on 4mm needles. And I think they are just at an impasse, and my row gauge is really bad. So I am, I don't know, tell me what you think. What would you do? I'm thinking right now, I'm just gonna step away until I can make a decision on the best way to move forward. I feel like it's either gonna involve some regrading or choosing a different yarn selection, which if I have to choose a different yarn selection means it may be a while because I am not really buying a sweater quantity or half sweater quantity, as it were, of yarn right now. Sorry, she's gonna be screaming. I can't help it. There's nothing I can do about it other than let her in and run the risk of more kind of interpersonal issues in the workplace. Georgie, not me. Anyway, so let me know what you think. I think I'm just gonna step away for now and maybe come back to it, maybe not. Definitely come back to the sweater because I love that textured sweater. For me, fall and winter, I just want all the texture that I can get, whether that's cables or that kind of fun slip stitch pattern. And it is a super, guys, this is a super addictive stitch pattern. So if you have appropriate DK weight yarn in your stash, buy the pattern and do the swatch and see if it's for you. Because I mean, it was really fun to knit this swatch up. Speaking of swatching though, I am back on my swatch bandwagon, and I have one swatch that's drying. The other swatch that's drying, oh guys, this is one of my Rhinebeck purchases. Look at this. This is pure fluff. I have never knit with this kind of yarn before, so I'm super excited. This is from Artfil Yarn. This is a Surrey alpaca base. So this is 65% Surrey alpaca, 20% merino wool, and 15% silk. This is 200 yards for 50 grams. So it is a thicker Surrey alpaca. I think it would probably be equivalent to maybe like a drops brushed alpaca, somewhere along those lines, or a Fonte. Oh, Fonte has one that I can't think of the name right now, maybe Ombel or something like that. Anyway, this is a hand-dyed yarn, and in my swatch, which is drying outside, I have discovered that I am gonna have to try helical knitting. I've never done helical knitting before in order to accomplish the sweater with this. It was pretty stripy even in just the one, the little swatch and the one skein. So I think I am, even though it's a tonal, it was pretty obvious to me. So I think I'm gonna need to venture into helical knitting. So what is this gonna be? This is either going to be the Fireflies pullover, Fireflies sweater. I'll pop a little photo here because I cannot pronounce the designer's name. Or the Fireworks sweater by sometimes Charlotte sometimes. It's kind of funny that they both have the word fire in them. Clearly have a theme there. And the reason why I say or is because they are different in the gauge by 1 stitch, but the recommended needle size is the same for both patterns. So I have swatched this on a 5mm needle, and whichever one I get gauged for is the one that we're gonna go with. They're both really lovely and have gorgeous kind of simple lace motifs on the yoke with a mostly stockinette body and sleeve. So super excited for this yarn. Very soft, love it. And actually it wasn't a Rhinebeck purchase. I just lied to you entirely. I did purchase it Rhinebeck weekend, but it was a wool and folk purchase. The festival which shall not be named. But I was glad to find it. And so I'm excited to figure out which swatch that's gonna work for. Okay. We are going to move on to the gift knits portion of the sweater. The gift knits portion of the episode. That means that if you know me in real life and you are a family member or close friend who may be likely to receive a Christmas gift from me, this is the end of the episode for you. Bye. All right, for everybody who's left, I kind of have a goal to start knitting Christmas gifts now and knit 1 per week leading up to Christmas. So I thought what I would do in that run up to Christmas is try to highlight a different gift knitting pattern for you each episode, if not more than one. And I also want to hear from you what gifts you are knitting. So if you will leave me a comment below, I am actively looking for anything that is 1 skein and can be knit in under a week. Those are kind of my requirements for gift knits. 1 skein under a week. Let me know what you're gonna plan on working on for Christmas because it may be something that I pick up and run with too. But this week I have 2 finished gifts to show you. I'm not going, just in case my friends and family broke the rules that I set forth and didn't leave, I'm not going to tell you who these are for. I'm just going to tell you about them. So this week's gift knits are both beanies. It's the same pattern. This is the Violet Waffles pattern from, oh shoot, I can't remember the designer's name. I found it on Ravelry. You can find it there too. I will go look it up and put it down in the show notes for you though. So this is the Violet Waffles pattern. Let me put it up so if you can see the stitch pattern in it. It's just a great, simple little waffle stitch. I didn't even use, this one is knit in Kelborn Woolen Scout, and I used maybe 3/4 of a skein on this. Used a little bit more than what the pattern said. That is because my family member who wanted a beanie requested a slouchy beanie. So I added a little bit of extra room to the crown so that it has full on slouchiness. This is still unblocked. Actually, you can help me there too. How do you like to block your hats? I've never blocked a hat before, but on these I'm gonna need to. Do you put it over a bowl? Do you put it over a balloon? Do you just block it, lay it flat? How do you like to block your hats? Please let me know. I've got to do that this week. Well, I guess not this week. I have between now and Christmas to do that. Sorry. I'll pack a fuzz in my mouth. So this is the Kelborn Woolen Scout. This was really fun to knit with. I have not used this yarn previously. I did find it to be very soft, and it definitely is next to skin, so I think they will be able to tolerate this just fine on their forehead with no problem. But I did find it to be really drying for my hands. I had to constantly like re-moisturize my hands when I was knitting with this. But all in all, really great recommendation for gift knitting pattern. And I think this yarn worked fabulously for this pattern. I think it was a great pairing. I did knit this pattern in a different yarn that I don't think was the best pairing. I hope it will maybe change a little bit in blocking. Frankly, I just wanted to try this yarn because I've had it in stash. I ordered it in a color that I just decided did not suit me at all. And so it kind of went into the gift knit yarn category. And this one is quite a bit thicker, much spongier. This is knit in Wool Dreamer's Moda, which is also a DK weight yarn, but really honestly, a thicker DK weight that I almost feel like is more worsted than DK. Do have a little oopsie here. Can you tell? I accidentally put in one extra row of knit stitches here and didn't notice it till I was a few more pattern repeats up. So I decided to do what any good knitter would do for a gift knit, which is keep going. It's not mine, I don't have to stare at it. But what I did do was I had four of the pattern repeats before my mistake row. So I just did 4 more pattern repeats and then repeated the same mistake. So I figured that way it will, you know, maybe look a little bit more intentional. What I did like about this yarn, I love the heathered quality to it. I think the heather on it is gorgeous and it's super duper squishy. So if you are looking for a squishy DK / worsted weight yarn, I think the Moda would be really nice. We'll see how it's gonna do with the pilling. That's one thing that I am a little bit concerned about here, but it's not my beanie, so I guess it's not my concern. But yeah, so I definitely want to block this one. As you can tell, she's a little poofy. She's got a little poof to her. So I think blocking that will just help to kind of relax that a little bit, I hope. We're gonna see. If not, then it's gonna just be a beanie that I guess the hem gets turned up and worn close to the head, which it is a long brim, so you definitely can do that on this pattern, which actually might be pretty cute. Should we try it like that? Yeah, okay, so that's doable. Even if she's a little poofy, she can work with a folded brim and be close to the head and less poofy. All right, so those are my gift knits for this gift knits. My words are about like my hair right now, messy. Okay, those are my gift knits for this week, and please share with me what you're gonna be knitting up for Christmas. And if you haven't started yet and you are a Christmas gift knitter, this is your friendly reminder to hop on it because it will be here before you know it. So that is all I have for you for this week. And I hope by the next time you see me, I have some additional fun cast-ons for you. Sorry, I haven't been more productive this week, but it's life. Sometimes the knitting flows and sometimes it doesn't, and this is just one of those weeks that it doesn't flow. But thanks for spending some time with me, for putting up with my show and tell of my awkward middle school photos, and just generally being such a wonderful community to spend time with. If you enjoyed your time here, give me a like, a little subscribe, make a comment. I have kind of an arbitrary goal of getting to 2,000 subscribers by the end of the year. I have no reason for that goal, none whatsoever. We're at 1,845, so come back next time and tell a friend. Talk to you soon.